Hey, welcome back to Lions and Warriors Return to Forever. I'm Emily Orchid, and we are in the middle of the book of Matthew, chapter 27. When morning came, all the chief priests and elders of the people plotted against Jesus to put him to death. And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Then Judas, his betrayer, seeing that he had been condemned, was remorseful and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. Judas Iscariot is feeling terrible. And they said, what is that to us? You see to it. Then he threw down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed and went and hanged himself. But the chief priests took the silver pieces and said, it is not lawful to put them into the treasury because they are the price of blood. And they consulted together and bought with the silver, the potter's field to bury strangers in. So that's what the money was used for, to pay for a cemetery for the unknown dead people. Therefore, that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, and they took the 30 pieces of silver, the value of him, Jesus, was priced, whom they of the children of Israel priced. So Jeremiah said this like hundreds of years earlier, that this was exactly what was going to happen. And gave them for the potter's field as the Lord directed me. I'll read it again. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, and they took 30 pieces of silver, the value of him, Jesus, who was priced, whom they of the children of Israel priced, and gave them for the potter's field as the Lord directed me. Now Jesus stood before the governor, Pontius Pilate, and the governor asked him, saying, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus said to him, it is as you say. And while he was being accused by the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. Then Pilate said to him, do you not hear how many things they testify against you? But he answered him not one word, so that the governor marveled greatly. Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to releasing to the multitude one prisoner whom they wished. And at that time they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore, when they had gathered together, Pilate said to them, who do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ? For he knew that they had handed him over because of envy. So Pilate knew that he wasn't really jealous, or that he wasn't guilty, that they were just jealous. For he knew that they had handed him over because of envy. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent to him, saying, have nothing to do with this just man. Let me read that again. While he, Pontius Pilate, was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent to him, saying, have nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things today in a dream because of him. So she had some kind of dream that told her to tell her husband, do not hurt this guy. Do not hurt Jesus. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitudes that they should ask for Barabbas to be released and destroy Jesus. The governor answered and said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release to you?" They said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "What then shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?" They all said to him, "Let him be crucified." Then the governor said, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they cried out all the more, saying, "Let him be crucified." When Pilate saw that he could not prevail at all, but rather that a tumult was rising, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this just person. You see to it." And all the people answered and said, "His blood be on us and our children." Then he released Barabbas to them, and when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him up to be crucified. When he scourged, I don't even know what scourged means. I'm not going to stop to figure it out. Scourged. You know, I think I will. My phone's right over here. I'm gonna Google it. Historically, scourge means a whip used as an instrument of punishment. Could mean a person or thing that causes great trouble or suffering. Whip somebody as a punishment. Our people did scourge him severely, caused great sufferings too. What is scourge in the Bible? Whip or lash made of leather thongs attached to a handle. As a metaphor, it refers to any punishment at the hands of enemies or natural disaster. Yikes. Whipped severely. So I guess Pontius Pilate whipped him severely? That's not very nice. So backing up a couple verses. Then the governor, Pontius Pilate, said, "What evil has he done?" But they cried out all the more, saying, "Let him be crucified." When Pilate saw that he could not prevail at all, but rather that a tumult was rising, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this just person. You see to it." And all the people answered and said, "His blood be on us and on our children." Then he released Barabbas to them, and when he had scourged Jesus, so I guess Pontius Pilate whipped him, he delivered him to be crucified. He's not going to kill him, but he's going to whip him. He's probably afraid of these crazy, angry people. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole garrison around him. And they stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. When they had twisted a crown of thorns, they put it on his head, and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Then they spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. Can you believe this? And when they had mocked him, they took the robe off him, put his own clothes on him, and led him away to be crucified. Now, as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. Him they compelled to bear his cross. And when they had come to a place called Golgotha, that is to say, place of a skull, and if you look at it, it still looks like that today. Just the geography of the way the hill is set up, it looks like a skull. Okay, so when they had come to a place called Golgotha, that is to say, place of a skull, they gave him sour wine mingled with gall to drink, which would taste terrible. But when he had tasted it, he could not drink. Then they crucified him and divided his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. See, it had been prophesied hundreds of years earlier. They divided my garments. This was in Psalms, which David wrote most of Psalms. They divided my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. They bet on it with the dice. Sitting down, they kept watch over him there, and they put up over his head the accusation written against him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on the right hand and another on the left. And those who passed by blasphemed him, wagging their heads and saying, "You who destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." Likewise, the chief priests also, mocking with the scribes and elders, said, "He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he is the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God. Let him deliver him now, if he will have him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" Even the robbers who were crucified with him reviled him with the same thing. But these guys are like tied to the cross, and Jesus is nailed, so he's in really bad pain. And there are 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and so each of them has a different take on different aspects of Jesus's time prophesying and teaching in the world. So this is Matthew just saying, then they crucified him and divided his. It doesn't really go into detail what kind of pain that he had, but we might see that described with more detail in the other 3 Gospels. Even the robbers who were crucified with him reviled him with the same thing. Now from the 6th hour until the 9th, and they counted from 6 a.m. So the 6th hour of the day is going to be 12 noon, and the 9th hour is going to be 3 in the afternoon. Now from the 6th hour until the 9th hour, there was darkness over all the land. That's supernatural difference, that it's dark from noon to 3 in the afternoon. And at about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice at 3 p.m., saying, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani." That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" So in his last moments, he feels like God has forsaken him. Yahweh has forsaken him. Some of those who stood there, when they heard him say that, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah." Elijah the prophet from the Old Testament. Immediately one of them ran and took a sponge, filled it with sour wine, and put it, but not with the gall that tasted hideous. All they had probably was the sour wine. Immediately one of them ran and took a sponge, filled it with sour wine, and put it on a reed, and off, so that they put on the end of this reed so that they could reach him up on the cross, and offered it to him to drink. The rest said, "Let him alone. Let us see if Elijah will come to save him." And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. Then behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth quaked and the rocks were split. So that's supernatural. The veil ripped from top to bottom, and the earth quaked and the rocks were split, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep, the dead people, were raised. All this supernatural activity. And coming out of the graves after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. So when I'm thinking that the timing of the saints coming out of their bodies was when Jesus actually resurrected. They were resurrecting too at the same time. So I could be wrong, but I think Matthew's just kind of summing it up really quickly there. Then behold, I'm going to read it again. Then behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth quaked and the rocks were split. And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the graves after Jesus' resurrection, and they went into the holy city and appeared to many. So that tells you right there that it didn't happen until 3 days later when he resurrected. So when the centurion, which is a 100-year-old guy, or over 100 years, so when the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and the things that had happened, they feared greatly, saying, "Truly this was the Son of God." And many women who followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him, were there looking on from afar, among whom were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. Now, when evening came, James and Joseph, that might have been Mary the mother of Jesus, because he had brothers. We know that Jude, who writes the last chapter in the New Testament, was Jesus' brother. And Jude, I'll just say this, Jude is a very, very short chapter right before Revelations, and he talks about the book of Enoch, and I recently heard, and I can't verify this, but I guess Jesus mentioned the book of Enoch also, like about 10 times in his preaching. I just heard somebody say that, so don't quote me on that. But if Jude is talking about the book of Enoch and Jesus is talking about the book of Enoch, and it was taken out of the original canon, some people don't think it's legitimate. It was found with the Dead Sea Scrolls by some kids, I don't know, 100 years ago, not even 100 years ago, I think, the Dead Sea Scrolls. And anyway, I've read the book of Enoch, and I didn't see that it contradicted the Bible. I think it's real, and I think God wanted us to know. But maybe, there's a lot of talk about angels and fallen angels in there. Okay. So Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, that's probably Jesus' mother. Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons, which we know are James and John, the sons of thunder. Now when evening had come, so they and many women, I'm going to back it up again because I keep interrupting myself. And many women who followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him, were there looking on from afar. All of this, taking down the cross and everything. When all these earthquakes and stuff happened. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons, James and John's mother. Now when evening had come, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who himself had also become a disciple of Jesus. And there is legitimate literature out there that talks about Joseph of Arimathea was actually Jesus' uncle. And it says in the writings that he actually, before Jesus was traveling with, had his calling to do the prophesying when he was a teenager, that he actually traveled with Joseph of Arimathea to like the UK. Joseph of Arimathea was, he sold or traded tin, I think, maybe it was silver, but I think it was tin. But he had taken Jesus to the UK. That's what the literature, maybe I shouldn't, I'm saying as much as I know. But anyway, that's what I heard. So now when evening had come, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who himself had also become a disciple of Jesus. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be given to him. When Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his new tomb, which he had hewn out of the rock. And he had rolled a large stone against the door of the tomb and departed. So that was a nice thing of Joseph of Arimathea to do, to put him in a much nicer tomb. And Mary Magdalene was there, and the other Mary sitting opposite the tomb. On the next day, so Joseph of Arimathea was Mary's cousin or also her uncle, I'm not sure. On the next day, which followed the day of preparing the body, the chief priests and Pharisees gathered together to Pilate, saying, "Sir, we remember, while he was still alive, how that deceiver said, 'After 3 days I will rise.'" So the Pharisees, which are kind of a mystery, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, but I have a good friend out there who showed me in a roundabout way that these were actually original Edomites, which are, come from Esau, which Esau was the brother of Jacob. Jacob is Israel. Esau was his brother. And he sold his inheritance. And we don't think Yahweh hates people, but the one person that it is well documented in the Bible that God, Yahweh rather, that he hated Esau, and Esau was, I don't know, he was banished far away in the east, and then the Edomites are what's the word I'm looking for? The sons and daughters, the descendants of Esau are the Edomites. So the Edomites want the glory that was given by Yahweh to Jacob, and Jacob is Israel. That's the true Israel. So the Edomites come into Judea, pretending to be a part of this tribe of Judah, like they're legitimate Israelites, but they're really not. And I'm getting way ahead of myself because I can't like back that up all the way. But we know that the Pharisees and the Sadducees that don't believe in resurrection are not good people. I mean, look, they're crucifying Jesus here. So in case you're wondering about that. And you know, I wish this was flowing out of me better, but I'm getting kind of off track here. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of background. So again, I'll back up. On the next day, which followed the day of preparation, preparing the body, the chief priests and Pharisees gathered together to Pontius Pilate, saying, "Sir, we remember while Jesus was still alive, how that deceiver said, 'After 3 days I will rise.' Therefore, command that the tomb be made secure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away and say to the people, 'He has risen from the dead.' So the last deception will be worse than the first." Pilate, they wanted to make sure that there was no way his body was getting out of there so that they could say, "Oh yeah, he rose from the dead, that's why he's not in there anymore." Like, they sneaked in there and took him out and started this big rumor that he had risen from the dead. So the Pharisees and the chiefs are trying to, cover all their bases. Pilate said to them, "You have a guard. Go your way. Make it as secure as you know how." So they went and made the tomb secure, sealing the stone and setting the guard. So the Pharisees and the chief, they sealed that stone on tight, and they had a guard put out front to make sure that nobody was going to get in and nobody was going to get out. Okay, so we're at 28 minutes. I'm going to stop right there, and we'll pick up with chapter 28 next time. Actually, 28 is pretty quick, and it's the last chapter of Matthew, so I changed my mind. Let's read on. Chapter 28. Now after the Sabbath, and we know Sabbath is Saturday. Now after the Sabbath, Saturday, as the first day of the week began to dawn, which is Sunday, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to see the tomb. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat on the stone. So I guess they're witnessing it. Another supernatural miracle, this angel coming down and pulling back that stone that had been sealed. His countenance, the angel's countenance, was like lightning, and his clothing as white as snow. And the guards shook for fear of him and became like dead men. They're like frozen, shocked. But the angel answered and said to the women, to Mary Magdalene and Mary, probably Mary, who was the mother of Jesus. But the angel answered and said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has risen, as he said. Come, see the place where the Lord lay, and go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead." He's saying, come in here and see where he was laying down, and you're going to see that he's not there. He is not there, for he is risen, as he said, as he told you. Come, see the place where the Lord lay, and go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead, and indeed he is going before you into Galilee. There you will see him. Behold, I have told you. So the angel's telling them ahead of time exactly where he's going to be. It's not going to be, any surprise. He said he was going to be there. This angel's telling them, look, you see his body's gone. There's your proof. I'm telling you, he's going to be in Galilee and you're going to see him. So the women went out quickly from the tomb with fear and great joy and ran to bring his disciples word. And as they went to tell his disciples, behold, Jesus met them on the way, saying, rejoice. Jesus met them, saying, rejoice. So they came and held him by the feet and worshipped him. They saw him alive in his resurrected body. Then Jesus said to them, do not be afraid. Go and tell my brethren to go to Galilee, and there they will see me. Now while they were going, behold, some of the guard came into the city and reported to the chief priests all the things that had happened. So these guards had also seen that angel, watched him move that stone and sit on top of it and tell the ladies, and because they were frozen there, but they're not dead. They run back and they tell the chief priests all the things that happened. So these Edomites, they saw it. They knew it was for real. When they had assembled with the elders, now while they were gone, behold, some of the guard came into the city and reported to the chief priests all the things that had happened with the angel. When they had assembled with the elders and consulted together, they gave a large sum of money to the soldiers, saying, tell them his disciples, they're bribing them to tell a lie. They're like, zip it, don't say nothing about an angel. They're giving him a gob of money and they saying, tell them his disciples came at night and stole him away while he slept. This is huge. These Jews that don't think that Jesus died and resurrected, it's because of this lie, because of this bribery. I'm going to read that again, because it really happened. When they had assembled, when the guards ran back, when they had assembled with the elders and consulted together, after they told the chief priests, and when they had assembled with the elders and consulted together, they gave a large sum of money to the soldiers, the guards, saying, tell them his disciples came at night and stole him away while we slept. And if this comes to the governor's ears, we will appease him and make you secure. So we know we're asking you to lie, but we're going to cover your butt here. So they took the money. It was a whole gob of money. and did as they were instructed. And this saying is commonly reported among the Jews until this day. So they took the money and did as they were instructed, and this saying is commonly reported among the Jews until this day. The story is, among the Jews, his disciples took him out of there. They stole his body out of there. Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee, because the two women told them Jesus was going to be there. Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee to the mountain which Jesus had appointed for them. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, "All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." Amen. And that is the book of Matthew. Cool. All right. Well, thank you again for joining me at Lions and Warriors Return to Forever. I am Emily Orchid. And I love you. And I appreciate you reading the Bible, the King James Bible with me, and I love you for wanting the salvation and the truth of our Savior. Just keep the hope, keep the love, keep the faith. And if you like this episode, please hit the like button, and until next time, we will be picking it up with Mark, the second book of the gospel. I love you. Until next time.